Hello and welcome to the France 24 interview. Our guest today is a former head of the Shin Bet, Israel's internal security services, Ami Ayalon. He was also the commander-in-chief of the Israeli Navy. He's one of 6 former Shin Bet heads who are featured in a documentary called The Gatekeepers, a very powerful documentary where they speak out, some of them for the first time. Before we get to the idea behind this movie and its potential impact on Israeli society, I want to begin with the current situation. There are some tensions, again, I should say, in Gaza, also in the West Bank. Some are raising the specter of a third intifada. What is your take?
I'm not sure that what we shall see in the future will be what we call third intifada. We have to understand that for intifada require a lot of energy in the street, in the Palestinian street, and and I'm not sure that this energy exists. But what I can tell you is the way I understand the status quo is very unstable. We shall see violence ahead of us unless we shall change the course of the actions on the political level between Palestinians and Israelis, whether it will be a kind of a popular uprising that we call intifada, or whether it will be a kind of a terror, the kind of the global jihad or Al-Qaeda that does not need this kind of energy in the street, I have no idea.
Why do you fear that global jihadist groups are getting more and more involved in Israel and the Palestinian territories?
I don't fear, I know it. I know that, first of all, among Palestinians, we can see it in Gaza today. Surprisingly or not, in Gaza, the Hamas today is relatively the responsible and the pragmatic power in Gaza. We see cells of radicalism that are related to the global jihad and Al-Qaeda. We see it almost every day in Gaza, and we know that there are signs in the West Bank. But the assumption is that if humiliation and despair and lack of hope will follow, yes, what we shall see will be a kind of a popular violence, or if not, it will be a different kind, which is the global jihad kind of terror.
Okay, I want to get to this documentary in which former head of the Shin Bet speak out with a very strong message. I'm just very broadly summarizing, but they're saying the politicians are not doing the right thing when it comes to dealing with the Palestinian issue. We've been in charge of repression, sometimes very violent, but this is probably not the good thing for Israel. Is this the message?
Let me put it in a different word. The message, the way I understand it, that we are heading nowhere. We, the Israeli society, and if we want to see ourselves in 10, 20, 40 years from now as a Jewish democracy, or in other words, as a safe place for Jewish people and a democracy, we have to change the course of our actions, and we have to accept the idea that two-state solution is our interest. We are not doing it for the international community. We are not doing it for the Arab world, and we are not even doing it for the Palestinians. We are doing it for ourselves. And last, we believe that it is in our hand to speak to the Palestinians and to come closer to create a reality of two states.
Why is it so important for security type of people to speak out? Is it because the peace camp in Israel 20 years after Oslo is in tatters, and you feel that people who deal with security and are not afraid to be tough can send a powerful message that can reach a broader amount of people?
Probably, I'm not sure that I'm in a position as a political analyst, but the way I understand the Israeli society, the security community still play a major role among Israelis, and we have the credentials. We are doing it as people who has been there. We saw it from the inner side. We met Palestinians. We have been fighting everywhere. In my case, I don't know, all over the Mediterranean and in Egypt, Syria, Lebanon, everywhere. And we understand since, I think that the major factor for Israelis is security. We can explain to the Israelis why it is important from the security aspect. Not only from the moral aspect, not only in order not to lose our identity as a democratic society, but we are the people who can explain it to the Israelis that it is most important even in order to keep Israel secure and safe in the future.
Does it mean that for years when you were in office, you followed orders that you knew would harm Israel, or did you believe in them at the time?
No, I think that each of us, in my case, when I was a director of the Israeli Shin Bet, we had a peace process. I served
From 95 to 2000.
Yes, in my case, yes, this was exactly the case. And in my case, we cooperated with the Palestinians fighting terror. I used to meet Jibril Rajoub, Mohammed Ahlan, and Amin al-Hindi almost every month in order to create security for Palestinians and for Israelis. Because we used to believe that if we shall provide security, our politicians, our political leaders will be able to provide a political solution. So, and yes, there were cases, I even remember in my case, that when the idea of settlements was discussed in the cabinet, I said, if you want to discuss settlements, it is okay. I will leave the room because settlements is a political issue. It is not a security issue. So if the question is, why didn't we speak earlier? I believe that each of us spoke earlier, but then we said what we think to the prime minister or to the defense minister and not to the public.
In parallel, several former heads of the Mossad, the external security services, have challenged the politicians on the issue of Iran, essentially saying, well, there's more time to negotiate, don't go to war. Right. Why are the security people in Israel challenging the politicians? The politicians are not doing their job properly? Is this the message?
Well, again, I'm not in a position to
but it's unusual.
To tell you,
it's unusual.
I don't think so. Yeah. At least I'm not sure. I'm not sure I know how to compare, but at least the way I understand it, and I'm speaking as an Israeli, a member of the intelligence and security community for almost 40 years, we have been there. We know what is the meaning of war. We were almost in every battlefield. So we are not very happy to pull the trigger. We know what will be the results, and we know how easy it is to start a war and how difficult it is to end a war. So I believe that most people in Israel, my friends, became much more pragmatic when it comes to the political debate, whether to launch a war or to wait and to see the war only as a last resort.
As a conclusion, I said earlier, we're 20 years after Oslo,
Yes.
no peace process to speak of, or no real peace process. What's the future for Israel? Apartheid?
No way. I don't think even can think of it.
Well, some people do.
Okay, but I'm giving you the answer. So I believe that we do not have the luxury to give up on the idea of two states. Probably some other people can do it in Europe or in America. When I say we, I believe that most Israelis, since for us to give up on the idea of two states is to give up on the idea of Israel as a safe home for Jewish people and a democracy. We cannot see it but within the context of two states. So I believe that we have to understand that we have to try to understand what were the mistakes that we did in the past and to try to change the concept of direct negotiations. If you ask me, I think that we Israelis should tomorrow pass the law of bringing back those settlers who wish to return and are living on the eastern side or outside the major settlements. We know that in the future, it will not be under Israeli sovereignty. They know it. And according to our polls, between 25 to 30% of them wish to return immediately into the state of Israel and would do it tomorrow if the government will allow them and will compensate them, and they deserve it.
Thank you for your comments. And thank you for watching this edition of The Interview here on France 24.